Okay. So we'll begin with the Mangla Charan and the Guru Pranam Mantra. Can join me together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tap Jayatam Shuratau Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojau Radha Madana Mohanam Divyad Brindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimat Ratna Gadau Simhasanausto Srimat Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtali Bihi Sevyamano Smarami Sriman Rasa Rasaram Bivam Sivatastatastitaha Karshan Venur Sanair Gopir Gopinata Shriyastana Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shatarini Narayanam Namaskrityam Narum Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama slokir bhaktir bhavatir naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakalpatarurgalitam phalam shukamukadamritadravya samyutam vibhata bhagavatam rasam malayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavakaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamadine Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Tvai me ananda vishaya matir madhupati asakrit ratim udvahatad adha gange vaugam udandati. O Madhupate, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my ratim or attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Viknamina Narasimha Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayutim Girim Yatkripa tamaham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaramam Tatsat. So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to our Srimad Bhagavatam. We are covering chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. So this is part 2, and we will do a quick recap. Apologies again, I forgot to record the previous session. So anyway, hopefully the recap will cover it, and you can always read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so what we did was we were we were talking about Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign. So, after the departure of Bhishma Dev, we heard in chapter 9 how Bhishma Dev was passing away and how Lord Krishna arranged for all the Pandavas to come, and all the rishis and all the great assembly, all the great devotees from all over the universe, all of them assembled just to hear Bhishma Dev recount about Dharma. So he gave instructions, nice instructions about Dharma. And after talking for so long, then he wanted to wind up his pastime in Bhuloka. So what he did, he remained silent, and he controlled his mind to remember the Lord. He invited the Lord to appear in the pathway of his mind as he was departing. So we heard how he remembered so many pastimes of the Lord, so many qualities of the Lord. One by one he was remembering, and he was taking blessings from all the great devotees as well. And in this way he passed away. So after Bhishma Dev's departure, then Yudhishthira Maharaj went back to Hastinapur, and he was going to become the next king, the king of the Kuru dynasty. Not only the Kuru dynasty, Krishna wanted him to be the king of the world. So he asked Yudhishthira Maharaj to perform 3 Ashwamedha Yajnas, horse sacrifices. And this is very difficult sacrifice to do. So they did it 3 times. They did it. And in this way, Maharaj Yudhishthira was installed as the king of the entire world. So, we heard some descriptions about Maharaj Yudhishthira's reign. So, chapter 10 begins by talking about how wonderful the Rajyam, the kingdom of Maharaj Yudhishthira was. So, first he describes how the power of Yudhishthira Maharaj was absolute. It wasn't like some, politician who gets voted for his term for 5 years, and then he spends his 5 years worrying about whether or not he's going to stay in power in the next 5 years. So, and he spends all his time plotting with his enemies to see, whether he can remain in power. So he wasn't power conscious. Yudhishthira Maharaj's reign was absolute. His dominion was complete all over the earth and including the seas. Just like Indra, how Indra controls the heavenly planets. So complete dominion, absolute power. And it also describes the quality of his reign. So what was the nature of the kingdom of Yudhishthira Maharaj? So it was described as a reign of plenty. Everything was in abundance. What was in abundance? Rain was not in abundance, otherwise there'll be flood. So sufficient, just enough rain just to satisfy everybody. Not too much rain, not too little rain. Always just the perfect amount. And it will always rain at night. So the daytime will always be free for other things. And before Brahma Muhurta, it will stop. So it will be very nice. So, and we also heard how the land and the seas were bountiful. So the seas were full of jewels and full of all kinds of treasures. We heard about all this previously. And the land also, the rivers, the mountains, the forest, and they're all fully blooming with vegetables, with all kinds of herbs and drugs. So everything was there. The rivers were full of gold, the mountains were full of jewels, and the cows were also happy. So, and how the they were it's described the land was covered with spots of milk everywhere because the cows were so happy. And because the cows were so happy, they were producing so much of abundance of milk that here and there will be dotted amongst the grass. So that is the secret of having a cow, keeping the cow happy. And we also heard how not only the land was plentiful, the cows were happy, because of all this consequence, because Yudhishthira Maharaj was Dharma personified, he was reigning with the topmost dharmic, that means with greatest religiosity, protecting truthfulness, cleanliness, austerity, and mercy, very, very well protected. So as a result, and on top of that, he was also a pure devotee of the Lord, getting the direct blessings of the Supreme Lord. So as a result of that, the earth produced plentiful. And he also knew how to take care of the cows. So he ensured that the cows were kept happy. And as a reason, as a direct result, the citizens were also happy. So Maharaj Yudhishthira was known as Ajatta Shatru, one who has no enemy. And happy citizens, and what is the characteristic of happy citizens? Na adayaha, no anxiety. Adaya means no anxieties. What kind of anxiety? No anxiety, basically all kinds of anxiety. Anxiety of the mind, anxiety due to other living entities, anxiety due to natural phenomenons. All of these things were absent, just like Ram Rajya. Na vyadaha, no vyadi, no disease. They were disease free. Na klesha, daiva, bhuta, atma. So this is what I was saying. No difficulties. Klesha means difficulties of no difficulties due to natural environment, due to heavenly, due to the devas. In other words, the weather was perfect. It was neither too hot nor too cold. Everything was sufficient. So that's daiva. Bhuta, no difficulties due to other living entities, right? No other living entities were causing problems, and no difficulties due to our own mind and body. So this was the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira. And then we also heard how Krishna takes his leave. So after establishing Yudhishthira Maharaj very nicely in the capital Hastinapura, after spending several months over there, Krishna begins to take his leave. So he had reason to stay for some time. What were the reasons? Number one reason was because he wanted to please the Pandavas. The Pandavas were always asking the Lord to remain with them. They were always wanting the Lord. So he stayed there, but also he wanted to pacify Subhadra, because Subhadra had suffered. Subhadra is his sister, and she's married to Abhimanyu, who was killed during the Mahabharata war. And on top of that, she suffered so much of difficulties due to becoming a widow and all that. So therefore, Krishna spent his time pacifying Subhadra, and in this way he stayed in Hastinapur for several months, I think 3 or 4 months. And after that, the Lord was about to depart to Dwaraka, his own kingdom. Then what happens? So before he departed, we heard from Srimad Bhagavatam how Krishna went and took blessings and took permission to depart. So the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and yet he showed by perfect etiquette how to follow etiquette by his own example. So we heard how he went to the Yudhishthira Maharaj and took obeisances, touched his feet also. And then to those, because Yudhishthira Maharaj was elder, he and Bhima. And then to Arjuna, he embraced Arjuna. And then to Nakula and Sahadeva, who were junior to him, he accepted their obeisances. So in this way, he showed various forms of etiquette, Vedic etiquette. And as Krishna was leaving, when they heard about how he was going to leave, all the Pandavas and the relatives were all almost like going to faint. So because Krishna was so attractive. They were so used to seeing Krishna. Their eyes were so used to seeing Krishna all the time. And suddenly, when they heard that no longer you'll be seeing Krishna in your eyes, oh, they just couldn't accept. Their minds went into shock. So we heard about all this, how the Pandavas were very, very close to Krishna. They were just in a swoon. Female relatives of Krishna, so like Subhadra, Draupadi, all of them were so disturbed. And even others, Dhritarashtra, Kripacharya, Daumya, because Krishna is so attractive. When Krishna is there, even if in some previously, they only used to see Krishna once in a while. Because Krishna used to live in Dwaraka, he just visited once in a while to Hastinapur. But after the Mahabharata war, he remained there for so long. And after seeing him again and again and again and again, they just couldn't accept that Krishna was going to leave. So Krishna has that quality. That's the example of showing that he's all attractive. People cannot let go just seeing him. Even people like Dhritarashtra, who were, initially offensive to the Pandavas, even he got used to seeing Krishna constantly in Hastinapur, that his eyes became completely attached to Krishna. And even he was going to faint when Krishna was about to leave. And then we heard how Krishna, as he was leaving, how the entire city of Hastinapur was honoring Krishna, befitting his position. And Suta Goswami was also saying, whether it's befitting or not befitting the Lord, he was shown full honor. So we explained about this point. What do we mean by befitting or not befitting? Because he's the supreme personality of Godhead, so everything was supposed to be for his honor only. So everything is given to him. So it's definitely befitting. But at the same time, nothing is sufficient to glorify the Supreme Lord sufficiently. So in that sense, it's unbefitting. His position is so, so great. Just like how when we worship Ganga, right? Ganga, how we worship Ganga? We offer the water of Ganga to Ganga, isn't it? Because there's nothing else we can offer. So therefore, we offer Ganga's water to Ganga herself. And in the same way, when we worship the Lord also, how do we worship the Lord? We offer bhoga, isn't it? All the food is produced by the grace of the Lord only. And because there's nothing else, therefore we offer that particular food to Krishna directly. So in that sense, it is unbefitting. What we offer to the Lord is unbefitting. But still, by Krishna's grace, it is accepted. So this was discussed at some length. So how musical instruments were played, flowers were showered all over as he was walking, umbrellas and fans were used to bring him honor. And then in this way, there were the ladies, the female relatives, and also the other denizens, the ladies. We saw the etiquette of how ladies don't just come forward in front. They will go to the balcony and stay there and watch. So Prabhupada spoke a lot about the quality of shyness. And in this way, the ladies of Hastinapur, they ganged up together in the balconies and they started to gossip about Krishna. Because when you see a beautiful personality passing by, it's natural for this to happen. So absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of Uttama Sloka. Uttama Sloka is that personality who all the most wonderful poetry is used. The purpose of poetry, the purpose of music, the purpose of words were all created ultimately to glorify that personality. Uttama Sloka. So that is the meaning of the word Uttama Sloka. So therefore, if at all any poetry or any words or any music is meant to glorify someone, it is meant to glorify Krishna. So absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of Krishna, who is glorified with choice words, the ladies on the roof of all the houses of Hastinapur began to sanjalpa. Sanjalpa is gossip. So it's opposite to what we call prajalpa. We've heard of the word prajalpa. Prajalpa means mundane gossip. material gossip. Opposite of prajalpa is called sanjalpa. Sanjalpa is auspicious gossip. So this gossip, how is a gossip auspicious? So we will hear about it. This talk was more manahara, attractive to the mind. It steals the mind. This talk of the ladies is described by Sutta Goswami. It is more stealing to the mind than the hymns of the Vedas itself. So Krishna found the gossip of these ladies even more attractive than even the Vedas. So all this was we discussed previously in the previous session. So now we will move on to today. What is this Sanjalpa? But before we go to that Sanjalpa, let's hear what Prabhupada says about that particular verse. Anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti Mantra. So this is the statement of the Acharyas. Whatever we say, that's why even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is described, even if a poetry or a verse is improperly, grammatically or something not correct, improperly composed, still it is all wonderful. Because the subject matter of the topic is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is absolute. So because the subject matter is absolute, even if there is some default, even if there is some fault in the verse or in the poetry, it is still considered auspicious. It is still considered very nice. So Shruti Mantra, Shruti means the Vedas. So anything which is sung in glorification of the Lord is as good as Shruti, the Vedas. Even if such verses are improperly composed, Abhaddavati, this is in the Bhagavatam, right? Even if they are improperly composed, right? Devotees hear them, describe them, so they Shrinvanti, Gayanti means not only just describe, but describe in a singing manner. They sing about it, they describe it, they sing about it, and accept them as bona fide and authorized, Grinanti. So that is the level of descriptions about the Supreme Lord. This is the quality of Sanjalpa. The ladies who are all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord developed the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by his grace. So it's a very nice point here. So Prabhupada is saying, simply by hearing about the glorification of the Lord, about the wonderful qualities of the Lord, who is Uttama Sloka, who is the Supreme, they automatically developed the wisdom of the Vedas. Because the entire Vedas are ultimately meant to glorify and to develop love of God. That is the purpose of the Vedas. So they were already serving the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore they developed the qualities of one who is already well-versed in the Veda. What's the quality of somebody who's well-versed in the Veda? They become very wise, right? So develop the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by the grace of the Lord. So that's the shortcut of devotees. Devotees, very simple. They simply have to hear about the descriptions and the pastimes and the qualities and the nature and the names of the Lord. Simply by hearing the Nama, by chanting, we hear the Nama of the Lord, right? Simply by hearing the Guna, we hear about in Bhagavatam, so many descriptions are there about the Lord's different energies, about how the Lord creates, about what's the nature of the Lord. So all these qualities, Guna, simply by hearing about his Rupa, his forms, different avatars, different forms that he takes, right? Meditating upon his lotus feet. Simply hearing about his Leela, his different pastimes, especially with his pure devotees, we will develop Vedic wisdom, right? The Vedic hymns in the Upanishads are sometimes indirectly directed to the Supreme Lord. But the talks of the ladies, although not learned scholars, were directly spoken of the Lord. So that's why it's called Manahara, even more than the Vedas. Krishna found the gossip more attractive than the Vedas, because the Vedas, it's actually meant for different types of people. So, there are karma kandis, those who are fruitifactive, interested in only fruitifaction. So 75% of the Veda, you could say 60% of the Vedas is dedicated for this kind of people. So it has nothing, it's not really directly glorification of the Lord. It's very, very indirect. All right. So then there is also then those who are a bit, those who are not interested in fruitive activities, but those who are interested in liberation, but they are envious of the Supreme Lord. They cannot accept that there is one Supreme Personality which they need to bow down to. So to these people, there are also the Upanishads, which talk about various, how the Supreme Lord is Brahman. So in that sense, a lot of things is described about the Lord in that way. Very little gives this direct description about the Lord's form directly. So therefore, it's all indirect. And then, but the whole goal of it is to bring one to the ultimate point. So Krishna the Supreme Lord, the Param Satyam can be understood in three ways, right? Brahman, Paramatma, and finally Bhagavan. So if somebody is talking about Bhagavan directly, Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, then that is the goal of the entire Vedas. So that therefore is highly attractive to the Lord, because that's the point, that's the purpose of the Vedas. It's meant to bring the Jiva to develop bhakti towards the Supreme Lord. Okay, so let's hear what they say. This is verse 21. They said, who are they? These are the ladies who are congregating on all the different balconies in Hastinapur, watching as Lord Krishna is walking, passing through the gate of Hastinapur so that he can travel to Dwaraka. So they said, here he is. Who he is? Here he is, the Supreme Lord, right? Here he is, the original Purusha, Puratanaha. Puratanaha means original, one who is the cause of everything. Here he is, the original Purusha, as we definitely remember him. Savai, Savai, they are using the word Savai, oh, as we remember him. So, and again is described that this form of the Lord is the original Adi, the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He alone existed. Eka Asit. Eka means only one. There was only one who existed before the manifested creation of the modes of nature. And in him only, because he is Jagat Atmani. Jagat Atmani means the soul of the universe. He is the soul of, if let's say the universe is like a body, right? We have a body, and in our and inside the body, covered by the body, we are existing, right? We are the Atma. So in that way, if the universe is like a body, one could say the soul of that universe is the Supreme Lord. So Jagat Atmani, the soul of the universe. Ishvare, the controller. Ultimately, he's the controller of everything, of all living beings merge. So it says, in him only, because he is the soul of the universe, controller of all living beings merge, as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. So they are describing what happens in the Yoga Nidra of Mahavishnu. You know, when Mahavishnu is lying down, this was described in the chapter 3 of Bhagavatam. Already we covered it. So they are remembering it, they are recalling it. So they are remembering how when the Lord is lying down in the Karana ocean as Mahavishnu, as he is breathing out, many bubbles are coming out from the pores, because he's in the ocean, right? So as he's breathing out, many bubbles are coming out from all the different pores of his skin. You know, how many pores does one have? Cannot count, isn't it? So like that, so many bubbles are coming out, and each bubble is a universe. So inside each bubble there is a Brahma, and inside each bubble, there are 14 planetary systems, like that. And the Lord enters into each of those bubbles also as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So, and this is when Mahavishnu is breathing out. All the bubbles are coming out. Or every creation is, all the universes are created. And then when he breathes in, all the bubbles enter back into his pores. So at that time, what happens? Creation is destroyed. There's no creation. And all the jivas enter back into his body, and it's like a sleep. So they are in inert condition. They are like in a sleepy condition. Just like how we sleep at night, all our activities are stopped, right? No activities we do, we sleep. And then the next day, again, we continue our activities. So the jivas, they take a break while inside Mahavishnu's body for millions and millions of years. And then again, when Mahavishnu exhales, the universes come out again. And again, the jivas are taking different positions, different bodies, and they're going on with their cycle of birth and death, trying to dominate the material world, trying to enjoy the material qualities. So that's what's happening. So these ladies are describing that very nicely. So, and then, so this is a prayer. So even though it's gossip, even though it's called Sanjalpa, but it's actually a type of prayer. So it is very feelingly offering prayers, Samprarthanatmika. So the ladies are actually saying, what is Samprarthanatmika? It's basically glorifying the Lord. Glorifying the Lord, how the Lord is the ultimate controller, how is the soul of the universe. So these are glorifications. So remember, when we offer prayers, there are 3 levels of prayers. First, we offer glorification. Then we tell the Lord how you are so great and how I am so fallen. Right? So that is the second. So we submit ourselves to the mercy of the Lord. We don't approach the Lord eye to eye, like, you are equal, I'm equal. Yeah, hello, how? That's the Mayavadi concept. So we surrender. So that is the second level of prayer, Saranagati. The third level of prayer is then Lalasamai, to ask for a benediction, a spiritual benediction. To basically, when we say for prayer, we basically want something, isn't it? We want, oh Lord, please purify my heart, right? Please reveal your lotus feet to our eyes. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatumi. This is the prayer of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, isn't it? May that wonderful vision of Lord Jagannath be always be in my eyes. So that's the prayer. That's a Lalasamai. So these are the 3 levels of prayer. So this is the first level where the ladies are offering glorification. So then they continue. The personality of Godhead, Shastrakrit. Shastrakrit means he's the compiler of all Vedas. So it's very nice. First, they glorify how the Lord is so great. And then they say, the Lord is the compiler of the Vedas. So in other words, they are saying, how can we know that the Lord is great? We can know when we when we study the Vedas or when we hear the scriptures. That scripture which has been given by the Lord, then we can know. And who is the compiler of the scripture? The Lord. So therefore, he's called Shastrakrit, the compiler of all revealed scripture. So the personality of Godhead, again, Bhuyaha. So the word Bhuyaha is used, indicating again. What is done again? The personality of Godhead, again, desiring to award Rupa Namani to his parts and parcels, Swajiva. So what he's saying here, he wants to again award. The word award is used. Vidisatmanaha. Vidisatmanaha means to award. What is he going to award? He's going to award bodies and identities, right? Rupa, bodies or shape, right? And Nama, identities, to his parts and parcels. So it's called Swajiva. His Swa means my own Jiva, my own Jivas. So Krishna is saying here, I mean, the ladies are saying, Krishna's own parts and parcels. Who are the parts and parcels of Krishna? All of us, the Jivas, the Jiva Tattvas. So this is another proof from the Bhagavatam to indicate that we are all part and parcel, amsa, pieces. Though we are pieces of the Lord is never limited. He is always absolute, right? Just like how when we take light from a candle, we light another candle, that candle also comes from the first candle. But the first candle is not reduced in any way. So that is, the Lord is always complete, right? That verse is there in the Ishopanishad. So anyway, so these ladies are saying, all the jivas who are parts and parcels who entered into his body, right, at the time of all the annihilation, the Lord desiring to award them. So it's by the mercy of the Lord only, the jivas again get an opportunity to get bodies to and get identities so that they can continue their material identities. They can get material identities to suit their desire so that they can continue doing what they want to do in the material world. So all of this ultimately is awarded by the Lord. Ultimately, he doesn't do the in-between work. In-between work, he gives it to Durga Devi, to Lord Shiva, and all the different devatas. But ultimately, he's the cause. By his will, all this happens. And what does he do? He entrusts the jivas, the swajiva, desiring to award them opportunities to enjoy themselves within the material world. What does he do? He entrusted them. So the word, very nice words, the words used here, entrusted, anusasara. Anusasara means very carefully given to the trust of another person. So entrusted. So this is, it's not just thrown away, you know. So the jivas are carefully entrusted under mayam prakritim, under the material energy. So because the jivas wanted to lord over material nature, they wanted to become lord and master. So in the spiritual world, only the Lord is the Lord and master. If jivas develop that kind of desire, they cannot exist in the spiritual world, because the spiritual world is spiritual energy, and spiritual energy revolves around serving the supreme being. It doesn't revolve around serving the parts and parcels. It's meant for that. That's the spiritual energy. So they are not compatible in that environment. So therefore, those jivas who want to serve themselves and not the Supreme Lord, they have to go to a different environment where the nature of the energy is such that it is conducive for them to serve themselves. So that energy is the shadow of the spiritual energy. So rather, the spiritual energy is like Radharani and you know, all the different manifestations of the Lord, right? So the shadow of the spiritual energy is the material energy, Durga Devi. So expansion. So the shadow of this material energy is where the environment is conducive for these jivas who want to enjoy material nature. So they are entrusted to Durga Devi. So here you can see a nice picture. The Lord Mahavishnu glances over Pradhan, right? And that glance is carried by Lord Shiva in the form of Lord Shiva. And in this way, he merges with Durga Devi, material nature. So the living entities, therefore, are impregnated into the womb of material nature, into Maya Prakriti, by his own potency, Virya. So the Lord's potency manifests as Lord Shiva when he glances at Durga Devi, and in this way the jivas are impregnated inside the womb of material nature. So Maya Prakritim is empowered to recreate. So in that way, the material nature, all the elements of material nature expands and they are created. So we heard about some of this in chapter 3 also in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and these details are also described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14 about how material creation is created. We will hear more also later in chapter in Canto 2 about creation, about this material universe. So Prabhupada says, right, there are two types of dissolution. Dissolution means the annihilation of everything. Two types of it. One dissolution happens, major dissolution. Of course, there are small dissolutions, but major dissolutions, there are two. One happens at the end of Brahma's day. So Brahma, you know, just like how we go to work, we do all our things, and then at night we go to sleep and we forget about everything else. So Lord Brahma creates everything during his day, and the jivas are, you know, they are performing all their various activities. But after Lord Brahma's night, when Lord Brahma's night comes, so Lord Brahma's day is 4.3 trillion years. That's the amount of time it takes for one day of Brahma. And one night of Brahma is also 4.32 trillion years. So anyway, so at the night of Brahma, all creation is destroyed, because Brahma is the one who created the secondary creator of the material things. So when he sleeps, everything just wraps up, and all the jivas are in interim state. So that happens every 4.32 trillion years. But the breathing of Mahavishnu, that happens every 100 years of Brahma. So Brahma lives for 100 years. So every one day, there is a first level dissolution. But 365 days times 100 years. So and at the end of that, then only the major dissolution, the second major dissolution happens. This is when the bubble enters back into the body of Mahavishnu. So the lifetime of one Brahma is the amount of time the bubble remains outside of Mahavishnu. After 100 years of Lord Brahma, the bubble enters back. So this is the time of the breathing of Mahavishnu. So in other words, the breathing of Mahavishnu is 100 years of Brahma's lifetime. That's the time it takes to breathe. So very long breath. But for Mahavishnu, it's very short. So like that, again and again, Mahavishnu breathes, he breathes out, he breathes in, he breathes out. Universes are created, again they are all destroyed, again created, they are all destroyed. So that's why the word Bhuyaha, again and again, is used. So this is the playground of the jivas who have decided to come to this material world. In both the periods, both the material energy, Mahatattva, and the marginal energy, the Jiva Tattva, merge. So when he says merge, Prabhupada does not mean that the individual merges and loses his identity, right? What he means is the jiva who is spiritual in nature, he enters into material nature. So it's just like rainwater enters and touches the ground. It becomes muddy. When rainwater, which is water, which is clear and very pure, when it touches the ground, it becomes muddy. So in the same way, the jiva coming from the spiritual world enters into material nature and gets embodied by the three modes of nature, right? He becomes embodied by the panchabhutas, the elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether, and all these things. And he gets a body. He gets trapped inside a body. So just like the water mixes with the earth and becomes muddy, the jiva mixes with material nature and becomes conditioned. Right? So that's what happens. So two types of jiva. One is called the Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated souls. These souls are always in the spiritual world. They don't come to the material world. Why they don't come to the material world? Very simple reason. Because they don't desire it. Why they don't desire it? Very simple reason. Because they are always attracted to Krishna. That is the simple reason. Because they are always attracted to Krishna, always, therefore they don't at all think about sense gratification or lording over material nature. They're always, their consciousness is to serve the Lord. So that gives them no chance of ever coming down to the material world. So therefore they are called Nitya Muktas, by their own will, by their own desire. They are not forced, by their own desire. So in other words, jivas with bhakti. The other jiva, the other set of jiva are called Nitya Bada. So the Nitya Bada are called eternally conditioned souls because they have come to the material world. The moment they come to the material world, they are considered eternally conditioned. The only way they can come out of the conditioning is by the Lord's grace. So therefore, they are considered eternally conditioned. And they are entrusted to the material energy. Is for them to, material energy will keep them in illusion and make them think that they are the Lord of everything they see. Why material energy does that? Because that was the desire of the jiva. The jiva wanted to, The jiva saw Krishna in the spiritual world, and the jiva said, why Krishna? Why not me? So because of that desire, the Lord Tatastu agrees, and material nature is there to give the jiva this opportunity. Of course, the jiva can always come back. He can always go back to the spiritual world, and the Lord desires it. All the jiva needs to do is desire it, that's all, right? So that is the quality. So Prabhupada says the foolish and forgetful living being is always busy with false forms and false names. Why they are called false? Because material nature is not eternal. It's always changing. One day they will have this body. This body doesn't last forever. Then later they'll have another body. So it keeps changing, changing, changing. And that body and that identity is not the real identity of the jiva. So that's why the jiva develops what is called false ego. For each body, he gets a false ego. And in this way, it's kind of like, imagine it like a actor acting in a drama or in a movie. When an actor acts in a movie or in a drama, he forgets a good actor. If he's a good actor, he'll forget about his actual role, and he will go deep into his cast. Whatever character that he's playing, he will imagine what he is. And then, in that way, he will become a very good actor. So that is like forgetting his real position and adopting a temporary position and acting in that way. So we are also doing that. As we get different bodies, we forget our actual position of spirit soul, and we think we are this body, and we get so caught up and carried away by that false identity. So that's the problem. So to revive the jiva's consciousness, the revealed scriptures are also created by the Lord. So that's the entire process of spiritual knowledge. Spiritualization is for that purpose, to remind us again our actual position, to remind us again what we are missing in the spiritual world, to tell us about the nature of the material world so that we can learn to renounce the material world, to tell us about the nature of the spiritual world and about the spirit and about the Supreme Lord, so that we will develop an attraction for the spiritual world and for the service of the Supreme Lord. And then in this way, to intensify until the attraction is so great, it can bring us out of this material world straight into the spiritual world. So it is our desire, the acharyas describe, it is our desire which will bring us out of this material world. So we have to learn to desire the right thing. So that's the entire process of Krishna consciousness, to transform our material desires into spiritual desires. Simply by the process of hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, by hearing and chanting and remembering and serving, we will purify ourselves to this extent. So continuing, more, the ladies are saying, here he is. So it's very nice. The gossip of these ladies is so deep in philosophy. It is actually, the topic of the Vedas. So anyway, they're continuing. Here he is, the same supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental form is experienced by the Surayaha, who are all Amala Atmana. So what does this mean? So earlier, they are going step by step. First, they introduce the Lord as the Lord of all, the soul of the universe, right? In a very general manner. Now they are becoming more personal. They are going to a more personal form of the Lord. So they are talking about his transcendental form, right? And how the transcendental form is experienced by the Surayaha. Sura means those who are divine. So Surayaha means those who have divine qualities. How to know what are divine qualities and demoniac qualities? Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, right? Talks about divine and demoniac qualities. So anyway, wait, there is some noise. Let me just mute. Okay, they're all muted. Okay, so Therefore, those who have developed divine qualities, once we purify ourselves by the process of hearing and chanting, then we can experience the transcendental form of the Lord. So that is what the ladies are saying. So who can develop divine qualities? Those who are amala atmana, pure souls. How they can become pure? The process is given. The process of devotional service is all about purifying our desires. So how can this be done? How can this be achieved? Right? The ladies continue the gossip. They give the answer to this question. By dint of rigid devotional service, pasyanti bhakti. So this is the means how we can become pure, how we can become amala atmana, how we can develop divine qualities, suraya, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says the same thing, right? Shreya Khairava Chandrika Vitaranam. So simply by the process of Sankirtanam, right? The lotus of our heart will bloom with all pure qualities. That is what will happen. So therefore, by rigid, see what it says here, rigid devotional service. That means not loose devotional service. Very, very strictly, we must follow the instructions of the spiritual master. It's not many instructions, very simple instruction. Simply follow 4 regulative principles strictly. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, right? To hold on to the 4 pillars of dharma, of truthfulness, satyam, saucham, cleanliness, tapa, austerity, and what's the other one? Austerity and cleanliness, mercy, daya. So 4 regulative principles is meant for that, to bring us to the platform of dharma. And not enough. And one more instruction is given, which is to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And the process of bhajana kriya, the process of devotion begins with Shravanam, hearing. How we can develop the conviction to chant 16 rounds, how we can develop that determination to chant 16 rounds constantly, every day, without fail, by hearing. Right? As we hear more and more, we will develop the determination. We develop that desire. So desire is increased, determination is increased. So it all begins by hearing. That leads to chanting, and chanting is the means in which we can attain. So therefore, rigid devotional service, pasyanti bhakti, to follow all the do's and all the don'ts, right? And in this way, full control of jitendriya nirjita. In this way, we can fully control our life and our senses for the pleasure of the Lord. Hrishikeshana Hirshikeshanam. Simply to dedicate our senses not towards the sense objects, but towards the service of Hrishikesha, master of the senses. What is the means? The means is devotional service, the process of devotional service. So very nice. And then Prabhupada in his purport, he talks about Vishwamitra. So there is another process. The other process is called the Jnana process. Remember, many times I've said this already. There are 2 spiritual processes. The what do you call, the Jnana Marga and the Bhakti Marga. Both of these are spiritual processes. They are called the Nivrita Marga. Nivrita means the path of renunciation. So in here, there are 2 processes, Jnana process and the Bhakti process. The Jnana process is not meant for devotees. It's meant for those who are envious of the Lord, who cannot accept the Bhagavan concept. So therefore, they just want to merge into the Brahman. So for them, the Jnana process is given, and it's harder because it needs to purify the envy in those people. So therefore, to remove the envy, they have to go through greater austerities. So therefore, they have to perform very strict austerities. They have to go to the forest, renounce their family, sit in yoga, control the breathing, do complete fasting, and then in this way do meditation. So it's very, very difficult process. So Vishwamitra did that process. It's a picture of Vishwamitra. And even if he was very advanced, that process doesn't guarantee victory. It's a very difficult process, number one, and it doesn't guarantee. There's a lot of danger to it. So Vishwamitra, he was following that process of jnana, he was meditating so steadily, but the devatas, they wanted to spoil his meditation. Because they have their reasons. But anyway, they wanted to spoil his meditation. So they sent down Menaka, the Apsara, very beautiful society lady, Menaka, and his eyes were closed. And Menaka, she is very expert. So simply by the way she was walking, when they were walking, they wear ankle bells. The ankle bells was tingling in such a way that it just disturbed his meditation and forced him to open his eyes to see where is this sound coming from and who is the owner of this sound. So it agitated his mind. His meditation broke, right? But on the other hand, Haridas Thakur was performing bhakti, right? He was chanting Hare Krishna constantly, and Maya Devi herself came in the form of a prostitute to disturb Haridas Thakur. But Haridas Thakur was completely in control. So this is again to show how bhakti is the only way. So the ladies continue to say that. And therefore the ladies knew. The ladies knew that bhakti is the best way. Therefore they say, and that is the only way to purify existence. The ladies were not interested in the jnana path. So they said, bhakti is the only way to purify the existence, right? They knew the highest thing. So that's very nice. So then they continue, oh Shakis, oh friends. All of them were friends, right? They were all sitting there, standing there, gossiping in the balcony, right? Oh Shakis, here is that very Eka Isho Jagat Atma. Just now, I was describing the Jagat Atma, the soul of the universe, the Mahavishnu, he was lying down, all the planets, all the universes were entering into his body. So now say, oh friends, that same soul of the universe is here. He's walking, right? Here is that very Eka Isho Jagat Atma, that one and only Eka Isho, supreme Jagat Atma, soul of the universe. And they go deeper. They talk about this Jagat Atma is not some kind of impersonal light or Brahman. He has qualities. He has guna. He has rupa, forms. And he has pastimes. So very, very high level discussion, these ladies are saying, whose attractive and confidential pastimes. So why confidential? He has non-confidential pastimes and confidential pastimes also. So those who are demons, those who are atheists, they cannot know about the Lord. They don't know about the Lord. They don't know that this Lord has name, quality, form. And then there are those who are, some kind of devotees. They know about the Lord's, okay, the Lord is doing some, he does creation. He created the universe. But then there are even greater devotees who know a deeper pastime. Oh, the Lord came as Kurma avatar. The Lord came as Matsya avatar. The Lord performed this pastime, that pastime. He made the Vedas. And then there are devotees who know even more intimate pastimes. So, oh, the Lord came, they friends with Arjuna and the Pandavas. They did so many wonderful things. They slept together in the same bed. They ate the same food together, and Krishna served as charioteer. So these are more intimate pastimes. So Bhishma Dev was remembering all this level by level by level. And then he finally explained how the greatest of all the devotees are the gopis. The gopis knew the deepest, most intimate pastimes of the Lord. So it depends on our level of bhakti. So what do we want? Do we simply want to go back to Godhead and then have Santa Rasa? Just, you are there, I'm here, you are great, but you have your work, I have my work. So then we will not know the pastimes of the Lord to that extent. But if we want to be in the inner circle, the inner circle, so even amongst the gopis, there are 16,000 gopis, then there is the inner circle, and then there's the 108 gopis, and then in the 108, the 8 gopis, Astashaki, right? Lalita, Chitra, Chitrangada, Tungavidya, Vishaka, Induleka, Sudevi. So these are all the names of the 8 foremost gopis of the innermost circle. So like that, they will know even more attractive pastimes. So, O Shaki, here is that soul of the universe whose attractive and confidential pastimes are described in the Vedeshu Guhyeshu. In the confidential pastimes are described in the confidential parts of the scriptures, right? So it's not everywhere in scripture you can find all this. That's why 60% of the Vedas, it's not about Krishna. It's all about, Karma Kanda. And remainder 30% is all about Brahman, Paramatma, right? And 10%, like 8, maybe about 8%, it's more talking about Vishnu, and then the pastimes of the Lord. And then 1% is talking more about Krishna's particular pastimes. So the cream of all the Vedas extracted and distilled, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially the 10th canto. So we can hear in the 10th canto how Krishna's pastimes are fully described. So that's the most confidential pastimes of the Lord. So these pastimes are kept in confidential parts of it's confidential because not everybody can accept. Remember, I told you that there are many envious people. Because of envy, we came to the material world. We envied Krishna, therefore we came to the material world. So by default, everybody in the material world is generally envious. But still, there are who become devotees eventually by purification. So at level by level. So if these confidential pastimes are straight away given to the envious people, they will become offenders. And when they become offenders, they are actually shooting themselves in the foot. Because when they offend the Lord, material nature becomes very upset. Maya becomes very upset, and she plunges them deeper into more of ignorance. So it becomes a disservice for them. So to protect them, by necessity, these confidential pastimes are kept in the most confidential parts. And it's through the parampara that these confidential pastimes are revealed, right? So then we will know. So therefore, who reveals them? Therefore, are described in the Vedeshu Guhyeshu by his Guhya Vadibihi, by his confidential devotees. His confidential devotees will reveal these confidential pastimes. They will extract for us. They will pull out, oh, it's in this verse, or it's in this scripture, or it's in that scripture. This is the real meaning. This is what it means. And then they tie up all the different parts, so there is no contradiction. So we can understand fully what the scriptures are describing. So how we can know this? We can know this by the confidential devotees. So that's why Sadhu Sangha is very, very important. It is through Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees, we can hear and understand and relish all of these things, right? And deepen our understanding. So then the ladies continue, right? It is he only who, what does he do? He creates Srijati. He creates the entire creation. It is he only who maintains it also, Avati. Srijati, Avati, and Ati, annihilates. It is he only who ultimately is in charge of what? Of the Jagat, the entire universal creation. So ultimately, he's behind all these things. That personality who's walking down the street now, right? That personality is behind all this entire creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. And yet, he remains unaffected, na sajjate. So this is the sixth opulence of the Lord, renunciation. He is unaffected, right? He is completely in his pastime. You can see here Lord Mahavishnu, he is lying down in Yoga Nidra, right? And this is just an expansion of the Lord. The Lord is always in the spiritual realm of Goloka Vrindavan, right? And he is always immersed in his various pastimes. He doesn't do all these things by himself. His expansions do the other parts of it, right? And his energies carry out the wishes of the expansions of the Lord. So therefore, he is always unaffected. That's why, we see every other deva, he is always doing some work. Somebody is holding this, holding a sword, holding this, holding that. They are doing some work, right? Or they're doing meditation. Like Lord Shiva is always seen meditating, right? But you don't see Krishna doing any of these things. Krishna alone, you will see what is the role of Krishna. Krishna's role is only to enjoy. So that is the definition of God. God doesn't do work. God enjoys, right? So therefore, he has his expansions and his energies to carry out all his desires. Therefore, he remains unaffected. So Prabhupada gives his purport. The material world is created to satisfy the whims of the Nitya Bada. Remember just now the Nitya Siddha and the Nitya Bada. Nitya Siddha are the spirit, are the eternally liberated people in the spiritual world. Nitya Bada are the eternally conditioned souls in the material world, all of us. So this world is created to satisfy the whims of the Nitya Bada, or everlasting conditioned souls, just as naughty boys are provided with playing cradles. So, so therefore play, and then finally when you cry, okay, I give you the Vedas, I give you my devotees, and then they will turn their attention to that. And the way back is given over there. So then the ladies continue. Yada hi adharmanena tamodiyo nirpa jivanti tatrai sahi satvataha kila date bhagam satyam ritam dayam yasho bhavaya rupani dadat yuge yuge. So the meaning here is whenever and wherever. So yuge yuge yada hi adharmanena. So we hear a similar verse in the Bhagavad Gita also, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya. So here is different slightly. Yada hi adharmanena. And also in that same verse in Bhagavad Gita, yuge yuge. Here also yuge yuge. But the meaning is pretty much the same. Repeated in a different way in Bhagavatam. Whenever there are kings and administrators living like animals, duskritam, so living like animals in the lowest mode of existence, it's very dangerous, isn't it? If we get kings and leaders who are in the mode of ignorance, living like animals, what happens? All their goals, all their desires, all their policies will be towards destruction. And because they are leaders and they are kings, the subjects suffer. So therefore, whenever especially there are kings and administrators living like animals in the lowest mode of existence, the Lord in his transcendental form manifests his supreme power, the truth positive. Very nice. The word truth positive is used. The word ritam. Ritam means truth positive. Prabhupada translates it like that. Later we'll talk about that. He shows special mercy. Dayam. Daya is mercy. He shows special mercy to the faithful, performs wonderful activities. And in this way, manifests various transcendental forms as is necessary, yuge yuge. In every yuga after yuga, he comes. So it's a different arrangement of the same meaning given in the Bhagavad Gita. Yada hi adharmasya, that particular verse. So it's a different manifestation of that same verse. Wherever there are kings who are behaving like demons, right? The Lord appears in his transcendental form. He manifests his supreme power And to show special mercy to the faithful, to the devotees, he performs wonderful activities. Why he performs these wonderful activities? To increase the attraction of the jivas. Because I told you earlier, it's the attraction and the desire that brings us back to the spiritual world. So he increases that attraction so that when we see and hear about the pastimes of the Lord, we become more and more attracted. So he does this yuga after yuga. So, oh, how supremely glorified is the Yado Kulam. Yado Kulam means the dynasty. Kula means dynasty. How supremely gifted are uh, the what do you call the Yadu Vamsa. Why? Because the Lord took his apparent birth in that dynasty. So they are glorifying the family of the Yadus. Aho alam punyattamam madurvanam. Oh, aho. Aho means is to glorify. Oh, how supremely virtuous. Punyattamam. How supremely virtuous is that land of Madura. Vanam, Madur Vanam means Madura. Oh, aho, how supremely pious is that land of Madura. Because the Lord appeared there. So just like how is described, the acharyas describe, just like how the sun is born in the east. You could say the sun is born in the east, right? But you cannot say that the sun belongs to the east. So when someone is born in a family, the family, likes to take ownership of that. But the Lord is just like the sun. He doesn't belong to the east. He just appears to be born in the east. The sun appears to be born in the east. And due to our conditioning, the east will take ownership. Oh, the sun is my son. So, but actually it is false. So in the same way, although the Lord appears to take birth in the Yadu dynasty, and because of his appearance there, the Yadu dynasty is glorified. But at the same time, the Yadu dynasty cannot claim the Supreme Lord to be as part of them. The Lord is always independent. Same thing with Madura. But Madura is different slightly because Madura is also there in the spiritual world. So how pious are this land, Madura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, Shriyapati. Shriyapati means the goddess, the husband. Pati means husband of Shri. Shri is Lakshmi. So it's like another name for Madhava. So where the supreme leader of all beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken Swa Janmana. He's taken his own birth. So he doesn't have to take birth. He's called Aja, unborn. But yet he takes Swa Janma just to relish different pastimes. He takes the birth just to relish the relationship of a father and mother. So in that way, and he wondered in his childhood. So the ladies of Hastinapur are gossiping about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna while he was growing up. How he went to Mathura. From Mathura, actually the entire land of Vrindavan is also in Mathura district. So when they say Mathura here, they also include Vrindavan. So how he grew up in Vrindavan within Mathura district, and he performed so many pastimes, killing so many demons, herding the cows, having various different relationships with the cowherds. So they are remembering this. See, that same person is walking down the street now. So like that they are remembering. Oh, how wonderful this is, that Dwaraka, Kushashtali. So another name for Dwaraka is Kushashtali. Oh, how wonderful. So first they glorified Madura. Then they grow even high, even further. They glorify Dwaraka. Dwaraka is considered higher in terms of rasa compared to Madura. How wonderful is that Dwaraka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. So because the Lord was present, Dwaraka was so opulent, it defeated the heavenly planets. And the inhabitants of Dwaraka are always seeing Swapatim in his loving feature. So Swapati means soul of all living beings. So earlier he was called the soul of the universe, right? Now he's called the soul of the living beings. So actually that's the real truth. The Supreme Lord is known as Madhupati, extremely sweet, and he's so attractive. That's why it's called Krishna. Krishna means all attractive. So it's like the apple of the eye. Another word of saying apple of the eye is like the soul of all living beings. So the Lord Krishna, Madhupati, is the soul of all, is Swapatim, soul of all living beings. So all we have to do is remove our coverings, our conditioning. Then we can realize this position. So the inhabitants of Dwaraka are always seeing Swapatim in his loving feature. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. Oh, when will that opportunity come to us? So that is our prayer. That should be our prayer. So we should cultivate this desire, and in this way perform devotional service with enthusiasm, utsahan, nischaya, determination, and dhairya, patience. And in this way, certainly we will achieve Krishna's grace by his own sweet will. So these are the prayers of the ladies standing far away from Krishna on the balcony, but they have this desire and they are praying in this way. And they are gossiping about Krishna like this. So Krishna is, Prabhupada gives purport here. When he was at Dwaraka, he married 16,108 queens, and all of them were blessed with a sufficient number of children. The sum total of his personal family members amounted to about 100,000. 16,108 queens which he married in Dwaraka, and each queen had 10 children, and each child had 10 children of their own. So therefore Krishna had, you can imagine the calculation. So it amounted to more than 100,000 family members of Lord Krishna, known as the Yadu Vamsa. And again, during his lifetime, he managed to vanquish them all. And all of them were destroyed also at the end. Very important, because, otherwise people will claim, I'm Krishna's descendant, I'm family of Krishna. So, Kali Yuga is coming, right? People will, very unscrupulous, they will claim all kinds of things. So to remove all these claims, he wrapped up the pastime by arranging something in which all the Yadu Vamsas, they killed themselves. Yeah, because the Yadu Vamsas are immortal. They were living for so long, and Kali Yuga is coming. So Krishna wanted them to quickly leave the earth. So therefore, you cannot wait until they die naturally out of old age. So the only way they can die is by a battle. And the only people who can kill the Yadus are themselves. Nobody else can kill the Yadus. So therefore, Krishna arranged a pastime where they kill themselves, each other. And in this way, they all went back. So he wrapped up the pastime. We will hear more about that also in Canto 1. In the later chapters in Canto 1, we will hear how Krishna arranged for this pastime. Very, very interesting pastime. So Prabhupada says 2 classes of devotees of the Lord are mentioned in the stage of conjugal love. So what are the 2 classes? One is called Swakiya and the other is called Parakiya. So, we are talking about conjugal love. There are 5 rasas, isn't it? There are 5 ways we can have relationship with the Lord. Primary rasas. We can have relationship with the Lord as Santa rasa, in neutrality, peace, peaceful neutrality, like in Vaikunta, there are people who living in Vaikunta, and the Lord of all Vaikunta is Vishnu, and he's there in his palace. Lakshmi is there. And the denizens of Vaikunta are all living, they're all there. They recognize the Lord as the Supreme, but they don't really have any relationship. He's there as a king and they are having their own lives. So that's Santa Rasa. But there is also something greater than Santa Rasa. There is Dasya Rasa, servitude. So one who wants to serve the Lord more intimately, right? Then there is service. right? So the Krishna's doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, they are like the servitors in Vaikuntha, right? Like the Krishna's charioteer. What's his name? I forgot his name. Krishna's charioteer. It's not coming in my mind now. So anyway, like that, Hanuman. These are Dashyaras to serve the Lord. Even greater than Dashyaras is Vatsalyaras, parental love, to give protection to the Lord, to relish that feeling that you are looking after and taking care of the Lord. So that is very, very special, right? To become like the father and the mother, or to become like the king, like Ugrasena, to be like Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was having that kind of Vatsalya Rasa a little. And finally, greatest of all is Madhurya Rasa, to have loving relationship as a spouse or as a gopi. So in this way, in Madhurya Rasa, that's the sweetest of all the rasas. But in Madhurya Rasa also, there are two classes. That's called Swakiya and Parakiya. So we will talk more about that. Prabhupada classifies them first, Swakiya and Parakiya. Later we will discuss. Maybe we will do it next week. Sorry, the next time. So anyway, the ladies are continuing. Oh Shaki, oh friends, just think of his wives whose hands he has accepted. So imagine, all these ladies on the balcony, they are looking at Krishna, and they're starting gossiping about his. No gossip is complete until they gossip about the wife or the husband, isn't it? So they start to gossip about the wives of Krishna. Oh, just think of the fortune of all the wives of Krishna who have accepted his hand in marriage. How they must have undergone vrata, snana. Vrata means austerities. How they must have undergone austerities. They must have undergone so many baths, bathing in holy rivers, holy places. Snana means bathing. Fire sacrifices, homa, and perfect worship of Ishvara, puja. How they must have done all these things so perfectly again and again, just to relish the amridam from his lips. So this is the quality of Madhurya Rasa. In Madhurya Rasa, the Lord's lips touches the cheeks or touches the lips of the ladies. So to actually be kissed by the transcendental form of the Lord, the supreme soul of all the entire universe, they are just imagining the what kind of relationship, what kind of austerity, enna daivam seidana, right? So like that, they are thinking this is the wonderful fortune of the wives of Krishna. So Prabhupada gives a purport. Attainment of the stage of rendering transcendental service unto the Supreme Lord is the highest perfection. And this stage is called Swarupa. So when we attain the service of the Lord, that means we have attained our actual Swarupa, the actual dharma of the jiva. The actual purpose of the soul has been fully attained when we attain the transcendental service of the Lord. Jivera Swarupa hoy Krishnera Nityadas. The Swarupa of the jiva is Krishnera Nityadas. So when we have attained that, that's our Swarupa. So then he continues, Prabhupada, in one's pure spiritual form of Swarupa, the relation becomes manifest without mundane affinity. So that's our purity. Currently, we are performing devotional service in conditioned by the three modes of nature. So this is called devotional service in practice. We are practicing to be a devotee, practicing to be a Vaishnava, practicing to serve Krishna. And by this practice, we become purified. Our desires for Krishna's service increases until we come to the point of liberation. So that is, then we develop taste, right? Ruchi. And Ruchi will develop to Ashakti, attachment. And attachment will blossom into Bhava, transcendental feelings. right? At that point, there is no longer any material contamination. It is all, purity. So this is what will happen if we follow the devotional principle. So this is called Swakiya. Swakiya, Swakiya means, like as I told you earlier, there are two types of conjugal relationship with the Lord. Madhurya Rasa is divided into two. One is so-called Swakiya Madhurya Ras, and the other one is called Parakiya Madhurya Ras. Now, Swakiya Madhurya Ras is the relationship like how a husband and wife is having. So it's married, it's legal. So the relationship of marriage is nice. There is sweetness in it, right? It's like Rukmini and Krishna, Satyabhama and Krishna, Lakshmi and Narayana, right? Ram and Sita. So this is Swakiya Madhurya Ras, marriage. But even greater than Swakiya Madhurya Ras is what is called Parakiya Madhurya Ras. So the ladies in Hastinapur are describing the greatest. So there they are saying, the Vrajastriya, the ladies of Vraja would often faint just by expecting such favors of being kissed. Now, the wives of Krishna are always being kissed by Krishna, and they are experiencing great transcendental ecstasy of the highest order. But even more than the highest order, even more than this ecstasy, are the ladies of Vraja who have not received the kiss of Krishna yet, but they are expecting to receive that kiss. So that is even greater. So, so this is like they are not yet married. So there is a kind of a tension. There is like girlfriend, boyfriend, like that transcendental. There's a kind of a tension. This relationship, this tension increases the fever of that relationship. It makes it even sweeter, right? So before marriage is the relationship is even sweeter compared to after marriage, because there is an element of forbidden or resistance. So it tends to sweeten the relationship. It's like, when you add sugar in laddu, the laddu is sweet, or kheer is sweet. But when you put a little bit of camphor is not sweet. It's actually, you cannot eat camphor by itself. You just eat camphor, the taste is very, very strong, very astringent, right? But when you add camphor into that kheer, which is sweet, that kheer becomes even greater, even more tastier. So in the same way, when there is a little bit of forbidden nature in the relationship, that attraction becomes even more heightened. So that's called Parakiya Rasa. So that is the king. That is the highest of all Madhurya Rasa. And that is experienced by the gopis of Vrajadam. So the ladies knew all this, right? So they were gossiping about this. So we will hear more about this, about the wives of Krishna and about the ladies in the next session. So it's getting late. It's already 9:30. So we will stop over here. Right. So let's chant Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Why do we chant Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Panchatattva mantra? Because we can only understand Radha Krishna through the mercy of Nitai and Gauranga and the Panchatattva. So therefore in Kali Yuga, it is by their mercy we can understand this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the highest goal of Raja Prema and given us freely to everybody. And the means of it is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So we will chant 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So any questions, anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Prabhu, here I'm a bit confused, Prabhu. There is two type of to control the senses. To control the senses, there is two type. One is artificial, and one is. Hello, can you hear me, Prabhu?
I can hear you. Just for a while, I've got to put the battery in my computer. Yeah, I can hear you, Prabhu.
Okay, one is artificial, and another one is devotional. Vishwamitra, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it stated Vishwamitra, he had a artificial senses, control the senses. Whereas devotees, they are devotional service.
Yep.
What is the difference, Prabhu?
The difference is in the jnana path, the artificial path, you just stop yourself. I want to stop myself. So they use the mind through mechanical process of yoga. So first they practice, asana, they sit, they learn how to sit properly, different asanas. Then they control the breath in the body. By controlling the breath, they can stabilize the mind. And by stabilizing the mind, they can control their senses. And in this way, they can focus on meditating. So it's like a mechanical process. By doing this, by doing that, by doing that, by doing that, eventually they're able to control the mind by force. That is the artificial process. So that is one. Whereas the bhakti process is very simple. We don't mechanically force ourselves. We simply learn to switch. We like to eat, all right, don't have to stop eating. The artificial yogis, they will stop eating, they will fast. They will fast, like how Dhruva Maharaj, you can see the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. First he ate only food, then he ate only dried leaves, fruits and roots. Then he ate only dried leaves for 1 month. Then he only drank water for 1 month. Then he didn't drink. He only breathed air for 1 month. So, that is the way according to the artificial process. Whereas in devotional process, we don't do very austerities. We like to eat, right? We don't stop our eating. Instead, eat prasadam. So, and then what else do? We like to see beautiful things. So we change our vision to learn to see the Lord's form. We learn to see the Lord's form, and then we like to hear mundane things. We like to hear all kinds of things to satisfy our senses. So learn to switch our hearing towards whatever that is Krishna conscious. We hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear the glorification of the Lord, right? So it's basically learning to attach ourselves to a higher taste. Like when somebody likes to eat meat, and then later we give them a very nice prasadam. They learn to appreciate prasadam. So it has to be learned. Sometimes if they are very fortunate, they can automatically get attached to it. But otherwise, they have to learn to like something. And as they learn to like something higher, automatically they will renounce the lower. So it's like, when you're flying in a trapeze, you hold on to the stick, right? And when you want to jump to the other stick, you want to hold on to the next stick before you let go of the first stick. So it's like developing higher attachment and using the higher attachment to let go of the lower attachment. So that is easier because we are holding on to something higher. Then it becomes easier to let go. Whereas the artificial process, because they don't have a higher attachment, they are artificially forcing themselves, and it's only driven by their own determination only. So only that alone, their own determination is not completely followable. It can fall down, just like Vishwamitra.
Sorry, bro. Like Vishwamitra, he's a great rishi.
Yeah.
He also a fallen soul.
Yeah. He fell down because his determination wasn't strong enough. So that's the problem. especially, it becomes difficult, very difficult. So in the devotional process, it's a joyful process. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, right, it's joyfully done, right? And on top of that, we get the mercy of the Lord. Because in the artificial process, they reject the Lord. I don't want to have anything to do with you, Bhagavan. I can achieve liberation on my own, following this path of meditation. So therefore, the Lord also steps away. Whereas in devotion, we surrender to the Lord right from the beginning. We learn to surrender. We accept Him, theoretically at least. So the Lord is also looking at us with a benevolent eye. So it's like a child. A child is trying to walk and come towards the father or the mother, right? And he's falling down. He's falling down. As he's walking, he's falling down. Walking, falling down. Then the father and the mother will see, oh, okay, come. I hold your hand a bit. Okay, now walk. Oh, you fall down, I hold your hand a bit. So in this way, the devotional process is easier because we get the direct mercy of the Lord and His devotees. So they are there to help. Mercy is very nice, easy to get.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question, Prabhu. Okay, that's one question in the chat. How many pastimes Krishna has? Oh, he has innumerable. Not only he has innumerable pastimes, they are ever increasing. Anandam buddhim vardhanam. The ocean of bliss is increasing more and more and more every second. So, number one, it's unlimited. But the unlimited became even greater in the next second. And it's becoming greater and greater and greater as the time goes. This is the potency of the Lord. This is God, right? So how many pastimes? Unlimited pastimes which are ever increasing as time goes on. Okay, so I hope that answers. Okay, so and we are just, Srimad Bhagavatam is described in the heavenly planets is very, very large, more than 100,000 verses. But in earth, it's only 18,000 verses. So, and as you go even higher, you'll have even greater pastimes, even more and more. Even same thing, Ramayana also. Ramayana also is said in the heavenly planets, it's much larger than our earthly 18,000 verses. So, no, Ramayana has, around 20,000 or 20 something thousand verses. So, yeah, pastimes are always unlimited. Okay, so any other questions? Otherwise, we can stop here today. So if you do think of any other questions, related or unrelated, be free to send it to me in WhatsApp. I'll be happy to answer if I can. So we can stop here then. If there are no further questions, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for your time and everything. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.